Welcome to the Meltzone Podcast. It is Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
Be with you.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And in this really long episode today, we are talking about Tom's bad investigations that he already, posted the first video on, and where he will be continuing his research work in a second video. On other projects, I have been working and I'm still working on nozzle tests and nozzle wear tests. How do nozzles wear? What the effect of nozzle wear is. Tom has been working on his universal test platform, his Mendel 9000, which he might be using in the future to test different beds, hot ends, where he can just switch them out really easily. And he's also been doing bit of house renovation in the couple of days when spring has sprung. On the news, Prusa printers, or Joseph Prusa or Prusa Research, they have been releasing their new Prusa printers platform where you can share your 3D printing designs, but also the G-code that is connected to that. And we'll talk about some risks that is potentially posed by putting, harmful G-code in the G-code files that you can share there. Also, they have been adding the kind of rough locations of Prusa printers that were sold during, since Prusa is selling 3D printers on a big map, and some see that as a risk of privacy, and we'll just share our thoughts on that.
PrusaPrinters.com by Prusa Research by Joseph Prusa. In other topics, people have been printing actual glass, though it's a pretty special glass. They've been printing a UAV frame from metal, from titanium, and that is, an achievement because it is so large. It's 0.5 meter large. And they have also printed a heart, or at least what they say is a heart. And we're going to discuss, what to think of that, even though we are not biochemist engineers. We are a different type of engineer. But that's that. And in the topic of the week, are we paid YouTubers? We take a self-critical look at our sources of income and how it ties us to manufacturers and how it makes us dependent on them, and what we need to do to keep our moral compass straight and to work at this stuff with a clear mind and without external pressures. And lastly, for a quick question, why do we hate 3D printing? Or what do we hate about FDM 3D printing?
So we actually released this week the first episode of your heated bed investigations.
Analysis.
When's the second part coming out? Because it was really interesting.
Here's the thing. When you make a two-parter and you've halfway recorded the second part and you've done all the tests, you of course get all the feedback from the first part. And it's like, okay, I've done that, maybe not perfectly. I've not done that perfectly. I probably should test that as well. So it's probably going to be another week until I get everything done.
Okay, so you will be doing further analysis,
yes.
And not just only writing up and getting everything out.
Yeah. So what's still coming in part 2 is the fan that's on the bed. People have asked, hey, why not actually use the fan itself that's on the printer? But that's different from printer to printer. And I actually want to test the bed build-up, the way the beds are built and not the specific printer. A warping test, how much a bed warps during heat up.
Cool.
And what else? Yeah, some detailed min-max analyses on the temperatures on the bed. But I've already done those, but I'll probably be redoing those. A lot of people have commented that the emissivity of the surfaces are different, and yes, they are, but they're not drastically different. Prusa has sent me a Twitter DM, and he was like, dude, you probably should paint your Mark III's bed as well. And I'm probably going to do that to all printers. I'm going to ruin some good PEI, but hey, it's all in the name for science.
So what I actually did, I don't know if it's really usable for your analysis, but I just put blue tape over the beds when I did the analysis on a couple of them. That might screw up the absolute value, but relative to each other, they should be still kind of in sync.
True. I mean, one of the easy ways to actually measure a surface temperature is, for example, to put a black electrical tape over it. If you just have one of those infrared thermometers. And that works, but I don't want to like skew the beds themselves so much, because if you have tape especially is a pretty thick layer, it's like another layer of PI. And especially for the fan tests, that is going to screw with the results.
Yep.
If you just have some paint, it's really bonded on there pretty well, and it's a thin layer, so it shouldn't affect the results much. But tape is just, I think it's too thick, especially if it's blue tape. There may be a less invasive option or alternative to painting it, like candle soot apparently is pretty good at this sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't really want a candle over PI bed. I think that's going to screw it up just as well as just painting over it.
Just paint them and then get a big bucket of paint stripper and get everything off there again. Because the PI, I think the PI is pretty resistive against.
It should be
against Lösungsmittel solvents.
Yeah. Yeah,
but the problem is with the machines where you have a non-removable heat bed, that's going to be harder.
The only one in that comparison is the load spot,
the
right?
Endo 3?
And the Endo 3, yeah. But the Endo 3 has one of those build-tech clones on there anyways, so those are, a few bucks a pop. So don't really care much about those, but the load spot mini has a nice PI sheet on there. And of course the Prusa is the powder-coated one, so that's, at least that side is going to be ruined. But thankfully that they're now out in the wild, and you can get new ones if you need to.
And you have two sides.
Yeah, I don't actually have any spares. I gave my spares to you.
Yeah, I have a spare. You can have mine. I'll send you mine.
I'll ask Prusa to send me some more.
Yeah, hopefully they have more in stock now, because I already heard a couple of guys complaining that they also finally want to get theirs, and I still think they are so awesome. I just made a customer print like a week ago, which was like a frame for a small television that goes on a storefront,
right?
And the powder-coated PI surface gives it such a nice professional look. It doesn't look 3D printed anymore. It just looks awesome. I love it.
Yeah, 3D printed parts, especially FDM parts, are always just so regular and perfect, and all the layers are perfectly stacked up. And having that bit of texture in there not only blends in that glossy or otherwise uniform first layer, but it also gives it a bit more of an organic touch. Yeah. It's nice. And there are some, knockoff or clone coated beds out there now.
Matter Hackers?
I believe they have one that is
they have
very close
coated ones?
Yeah.
I would love to have one for my Wham Bam build system. So like a bigger sheet, because I actually printed the frame for the television in 2 parts, because that way I was able to get it printing on the Prusa. Otherwise, it would have been a perfect fit for a bigger printer. But in order to get the surface finish, I just had to cut it into pieces. Yeah.
Have you actually? So you've got your Wham Bam bed on the Artillery X1 on the, what's their full company name? Sidewinder X1, right?
The company name used to be Artillery. Supposedly, they're now known by the name Ivnovo or something like that.
Yeah.
Sidewinder X1, that's the model.
Right. So the CR10 clone. Have you ever pointed your FLIR camera at that bed? Because it's the same layer buildup as the load spot mini, I believe, where it's just a silicone
heater.
Silicone heater, yeah.
They didn't do that so far, but I might be doing that later if you're interested in that.
Maybe pretty interesting.
In order to see the if there's also a pattern like you have seen on your lull spot.
Yeah, because there's no heat spreader in there. It's just you directly see that silicone pattern, or the heater pattern from the silicone heater. Yeah. What have you been working on?
So finally, just like in 2 hours from now, my layer adhesion or layer thickness video will be released. I'm really looking forward for the feedback. But also in that regard, I was thinking for quite a while how actually, so I used to print a lot of different materials, and once upon a time, I noticed that my nozzle was worn out. Even though
how do you notice that?
I noticed that when I changed it, because it was like roundish in the front. And I really thought about, okay, there are probably a couple of people around there who used to print like wood fill and glow-in-the-dark filament, and they do not even know that they're wearing out their nozzle that way. And I thought about, okay, how could I test in a kind of scientific manner what actually the difference of printing results is if the nozzle is wearing out.
I thought you were going to say, oh, how can I test what wears a nozzle out? And I was going to say, oh, poor nozzles. Oh,
I'm actually doing that at the moment.
Okay.
So
ruining nozzles for science.
Ruining nozzles for science. So I actually bought a couple of like cheap Chinese E3D knockoff nozzles, and I'm using them for the test. So I already tested, does filament glow in the dark?
Right.
And I wasn't able to wear out my nozzle. I was I was so unhappy about that, because I have seen pictures on Reddit where people said like after half a kilo of glow in the dark filament, they were able to like poke the whole strand of filament through the nozzle because everything was worn out.
That's crazy.
But
I believe dust filament use like slightly smaller glow in the dark particles. They're different sizes, different chunks. I've talked to Roman about that. Yeah, so I think they keep that in mind when making it.
And they don't write something on like their webpage that their filament is wearing out. And I talked to them and I said, "Oh, you sorry."
There's no disclaimer?
There's no disclaimer there.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, well, if it's accurate, I guess that's fine, right?
I thought, okay, I'll still give it a try. They're also using the how's the pigment called? Strontium aluminate. I think it's called strontium aluminate, which is the pigment that is used for the glow in the dark filaments. I'll still give it a try and really just print like big chunks of material, and then after like in 100 gram intervals, check the nozzle diameter and just take a look at the nozzle itself with a macro lens.
Right.
But I just didn't see anywhere there. But there are probably still other filaments out there which are using strontium aluminate from other manufacturers or different sizes and things that will still wear out your nozzle. Since I was disappointed, I switched to carbon fiber filament now, and this is really doing its job. And currently, I'm just like printing like these big chunks of carbon fiber in the basement. Right. People will scream at me like wasting this precious. Science. It's for science. Like wasting that filament. But I really want to see, how does a nozzle wear? So does in the first place the geometry of the nozzle change? Does the diameter of the orifice in the front change and things like these?
Are you going to do some half grinds?
Yes, I already did that.
Yeah.
So sorry for everyone who is not watching on YouTube. I actually used my CNC router this morning to cut open like a new Chinese nozzle, just to take a look at the section. How does the internal nozzle look like? And I'll also be doing the same thing with the nozzle that is currently printing like 100 gram blocks of carbon fiber filament. So I think it's really interesting because I am actually only just using hardened steel nozzles on my Prusa, because these are the nozzles that don't wear out. I don't really have to think about what material I'm printing and all of these things. So we'll see. I also I have nozzles with diameters starting from 0.4 all the way to 0.8 millimeters. And just printed benches with the same G-code with different nozzle diameters, just to find out what changes in terms of print quality.
You're doing the simulation with like actually different diameters.
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. And it's also interesting to just really do one of these half cuts of these nozzles and take a look on the Chinese machined surfaces on the inside, which you don't really see usually.
Yeah. Is there a difference? Everyone's always saying they're just as good as the genuine ones.
So I think they might be similarly good in terms of printing quality. the machining tolerances and all of the things, they are totally different to the genuine E3D nozzles. Yeah. And I already noticed that. So I do regularly cold pulls on like during this nozzle test now, and also just to clean out my nozzle from time to time. And this gives you a perfect imprint of the internal surface. Yeah. And I already noticed when I used like the Chinese knockoffs that you have huge machining marks on the inside. And this just shows again and proves that really my cold pulling technique is a suitable way to take a look on the internal surfaces of a nozzle. And you can also use that to just, well, you do a cold pull, you take your calipers and you can measure the diameter of the nozzle and find out if it is worn out or not. And that's, I think it's a pretty nice and interesting technique, because not everyone has precision measuring instruments and drills in all different sizes that you can stick through the nozzle in order to find out if your nozzle is worn out or not.
You could also use the that nozzle cleaning kit.
Yeah,
that R3 cord we're handing out at MRF this year.
Yes,
those are 50 or 100 micron increments.
I think 100 micron increments. I'm not 100% sure, but they are not marked. So I, in the first place, need to find out which nozzle has or which needle has which diameter.
Grab a micrometer and just measure them out. I've actually been using those to just clean nozzles, and they're working pretty well.
Nice thing. Have you actually? So, just speaking of hardened steel nozzles, do you think there is a difference in terms of print quality and temperatures and settings you need to use when you are using something different than a brass nozzle?
We have actually talked about this before on the podcast, I believe.
Have we? Okay.
But in my experience, and I've read your tweet about that as well, we're both printing on the hot end of things, PLA 210, 215. I have not noticed a real difference between hardened and brass nozzles, but for the same reason that Steve pointed out, it's probably because we're already on the hot end end of the spectrum of where you should be printing your materials. And so far, I just use them just like a brass nozzle.
Okay,
I've not noticed anything.
This is also something I really want to do. I have now finally nicely gathered all of my nozzles that I have, and I really want to find out if there is a difference between using like different materials for the nozzle. Do you actually have a ruby nozzle?
I do have two, yes.
Could you maybe borrow me one?
I can ship one over to you. Yeah, it's a standard E3D 0.4.
Okay.
I've had my Padawan tested, had the other one, the used one now. It was like it's not. I mean, thermals. He was like getting issues with getting enough heat into the filament, because ruby, or what is it, aluminum oxide essentially, is not that great at conducting heat. Okay. So he was having some issues with, similar to how a stainless steel nozzle would perform. But yeah, I'll ship one out to you. Remind me once we're done recording here.
That would be perfect, because I don't really want to spend $100 on one of these nozzles if I don't know if they are probably working. And I'm quite happy with the nozzle access I got at MRF.
By the way, have you ever heard anything about the nozzle X sucks story by the guy who has...
I think he actually was at MRF and apologized to Sanjay, as far as I can remember.
So the entire story was a bust, essentially.
I think it essentially was a bust.
Okay. So
I think it was a pretty...
I'm not doing a disservice to viewers by lying to you, by presenting false facts of what I've been accused to. Is that what I take from it?
Probably, yes.
All right. Yeah.
But as I heard, it was a pretty good deal for the Mosquito hot end guys, because they also have a kind of a similar nozzle, and their sales just like skyrocket.
Well.
So the thing is, or the question for me is, if it is really worth if it's worth investing in one of these more expensive nozzles.
How much is the nozzle X? Do you know?
Is it $25? I don't know.
Which is, I mean, it's pretty expensive for that small bit of metal, but if it's a nozzle you're just going to have forever and that prints everything, like,
yes,
I don't think that's too outrageous.
It's £22.50.
Okay, so like 15 euros?
No, like 30 euros.
No, not that much. Brexit has taken its toll on how much the pound is worth.
Probably around $25.
Yeah.
It's still just 1/4 of a ruby nozzle. I really know that the idea of having a ruby in your nozzle sounds kind of compelling.
Yeah, it's just such a cool idea, right? You have that gemstone in there. And it does look really cool.
Yeah. So I have been using the Nozzle X since I got back from Murph. I'm totally happy with it. I did not have any issues so far. I think I had issues during my layer height test that the 0.05 millimeter parts, I had jams from time to time. This could be a reason for using that nozzle, or that could just be the reason that FDM printing in 0.05 millimeter layers is just a bad idea.
Yeah. So what was jamming? The standard nozzle or the Nozzle X?
The Nozzle X was jamming. So I only used the Nozzle X.
Okay.
There. I don't know if that was the reason. This is the only thing I noticed so far, but otherwise I'm really happy with the nozzle. And it doesn't rust as the old hardened steel nozzles. Right.
But I mean, if it rusts on the outside, like, who cares?
Yeah. Just that it doesn't look that pretty. So.
Right. I've also been working on getting, something that I can test more things on working. I mean, I feel like you're doing all this stuff that, people were loving about my channel. I'm kind of looking at you in envy and I'm like, okay, yeah, Stefan gets it.
I don't want to steal that from you.
No. That's always my approach with also Joe, Angus, all the other people who are doing content on 3D printing. There's so much stuff to investigate. Like, there's enough for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm bad with other things. I'm good in investigations. I'm not good in doing like reviews and things like this. So I probably stick to those.
Well, but I've also wanted to do those things again. I mean, I know I've been doing those in like the earlier days of the channel. But my problem was always, okay, if you're doing like a heated bed test or a hot end test or one of those things, you're always screwing with one printer that is then never going to be the same again. For example, I've had the Mosquito prototypes, and one of my Prusa Mark IIs now is permanently mutilated by cramming that Mosquito harden in there. It's always this huge pain to test individual components. We're testing a new bed or a new electronics platform. So, yeah, and this project has been 2 years in the making. It's the Mendel 9000. I've been, finding a few hours here and there to get that working. And I think the only thing that's left to do is to hook up the heated bed and a sensor, and then it should be printing. So I've got to do it in there now, to do it Wi-Fi, that I've been familiarizing myself with in preparation for building the MPCNC. And yeah, I'm really liking that printer. And the idea is everything is modular. Everything is laid out on a grid where I can just, swap out the belt for the X-axis and try out something else. Or, the hot end, the entire X carriage is literally just a cheese plate with a 12.5 millimeter grid of M4 holes. So everything just bolts onto that. And if I want to change the extruder, okay, that comes off. The sensor stays on there. That's the idea with that. So hopefully that should be ready within the next few weeks. And I can test components again.
Cool. Yeah, I really like the efforts that you also want to, if you test something, you want to do it properly and in a kind of scientific way. I think this was always something which, well,
you've done better than me. Yes, I know.
No, I wouldn't put it in that direction. But you also have like this approach to things. I don't know if it's like a German approach, but to make it properly, to make
possibly
to be happy with the results, to not have people asking you, have you set up everything properly? Is that really comparable and things like these? And I really think that this is a good thing, and using like your modular platform for that now, it's I think a great approach. And there are so many topics out there where this could be usable.
Yeah. I mean, what I've always tried to do is to kind of limit myself in how geeky and how technical I want to get on these tests. I mean, which was very apparent in the Filament series. Your Filament tests are way more in depth. Mine were just like, okay, same 3 tests basically, and then, have a quick score, so it's easily comparable. But what you do is you don't stop there and you don't go, okay, this is the easily digestible stuff. You actually go in depth and then make that more easily digestible. So I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get on that level, because that's what you do really well. So I don't want to compete there. But testing things and testing components, I think, especially on something where you can change one variable by itself, is kind of important. And yeah, so far, which printer do I tear apart next for? The final mosquito hotend review. Should I do that on the old Mark II again, or do I mutilate my Mark III, or do it on a Creality printer, which I don't think does the hotend justice? It's just, yeah.
But the Mendel 9000, just slightly sliding back to German. The Mendel 9000 is actually your creation, so it's like a beefed up Mendel 90.
It's still. Where is that? So my first the printer that I built for myself, the first one was a Prusa i3 V2 or i2. Sorry, the Prusa i2. So triangular frame and slightly larger than the stock one. That I converted into a Mendel 90, and then I rebuilt that into a double width thick plywood 12 millimeter rails Mendel 90. Generated from the original files, because that's the great thing about the Mendel 90. Knobhead did a fantastic job here of just allowing you to change, okay, I want to use different rods, and it creates new STL files for you. Mm-hmm. So that was that. And then I rebuilt the entire thing again by now using linear rails on everything except for the y-axis, but that can come later, using that modular approach. So yeah, most of the parts are designed from scratch, but at its core, it's still a Mendel 90.
Cool.
Still the same frame.
But why no linear rails on the y-axis if you have them on the z-axis?
I just haven't put any on. And for the y-axis, I don't see that much of an incentive to use them, because it's already 12 millimeter rails with big wide distance between them.
Okay.
There are no dynamic forces on that. If it's on the z-axis, you have the dynamic forces from the toolhead there. Mm. That makes sense. But on the y-axis, it's like
okay, yeah, you're right there.
Yeah. And in other projects, I'm looking outside. If you've noticed that the lighting today is slightly different, it's because I don't have the blinds down, because I can't put the blinds down because the house is getting renovated. And yeah, that's been something that the last few weeks have been keeping me busy with, because we were just going to take off the wooden facade and have it stuccoed over, but things got out of hand, and now we're doing like a full 12 centimeter styrofoam installation on the entire thing. And yeah, that's been my learning topic over the last few weeks, and prepping all that, and the next few weeks are going to be installing it. Yay! But I do like working with my hands, and we've quickly touched on that before we started recording this. I really enjoy working on stuff, on physical stuff, where at the end of the day, you can look at it and go like, okay, this is what I did today. I can be proud of. I see what I've achieved today. Maybe not be too proud of the stuff I do, because it never turns out the way you think it does. But just that physical creating is something that you kind of lose when you're just doing 3D printing and video editing, and 3D printing is so CAD heavy, so heavy on the computer side, that I do enjoy that, where you have something, you take your cordless drill, you screw that thing in, and now it's there.
Totally understand that.
Yeah, and I fully recommend to anyone out there who is doing 3D printing or has a job that is very heavy in working with computers, just have something where you can create physical stuff. It's just such a joy.
I was on holiday for the last 2 weeks, so I didn't work on my normal job, and I thought, oh yeah, this will be the time when I can finally make some videos. But I have actually just been spending like time outside in the garden, around the house, in the shed, resurrecting my old Vespas and all of these things, and I totally enjoyed them to a certain point. If you, in the end, you should always have a healthy mixture between both, because like it's recreational work if I'm working in the garden outside, but still at some point I wish to get back to like Fusion 360 and to do some CAD design.
True.
Because I can like relax my body a little bit and work with my brain again.
Yeah, physical stuff, very nice to do as a Ausgleich. Two Germans struggling for the word. Yeah, what are you doing?
Getting back into balance.
Yes, balancing out your digital work. Cool. Should we talk about some digital stuff that's been happening lately?
Yes, and you have been ranting about that.
No, I've not been ranting about it.
You have been concerned.
Yes, I just put up my finger like, hey guys, have you thought about that? So what we're talking about here is the PrusaPrinters.com, I believe, website that Prusa has launched, and it's a few things. So it's an alternative to Thingiverse. So you can upload STLs. You can also upload gcode files for Prusa printers, which we're going to touch on in a second. And it's also a community building platform, I guess, where you can find Prusa owners near you. So let's go through those piece by piece, I guess. So Thingiverse sharing. Prusa has contracted a few designers that are pretty well known in the community. I think Floristic is designing for them.
Yes. Wexter?
Yeah, the
modeling guy.
Oh, his designs are gorgeous.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a My Mini Factory almost, where it's, contracted designs or paid for designs that are then put out there into the wild. So the designers, I guess, are earning from their deal with Prusa, I assume.
But if you're talking about like paid designs,
no,
are
okay,
there designs, or is there at the moment the possibility to like sell something on that platform?
No, so Prusa is providing or is having like a Thingiverse approach where everything is free. I was just talking about how the designers get paid for their work. I believe, I hope that if someone like Floristic or Wexter is designing for the Prusa platform, that they are compensated somehow for that work. So that's great. But they're also doing G-code sharing. So the idea is to have like a G-code repository where people can upload their printed files, where they're like, okay, I printed this on the Mark III and it turned out like that. And if you want the exact same result, you can download my G-code and print it on your own machine. And that sounds interesting on paper.
Mm-hmm.
The issue, though, is, which I'm sure you're aware of as well, because if you follow the Twitter threads, is that G-code is more than an STL. G-code allows you to basically take full control over a printer. And it's not just, what it prints, but it goes so much further in depth. Like I've postulated on Twitter, like, okay, what are they doing against, for example, overheating the hot end? Or driving the hot end into the bed and breaking the PI and breaking the heat break and doing that. What are they doing against, say, setting a super slow maximum speed and then saving that to EEPROM? It's 2 lines of G-code. Mm-hmm. So apparently Prusa is doing some scanning on the G-code. I don't know if it's manual review. It sounds like there's a human involved at some point. But I'm sure there's some automatic, if there's an M500 in there, which is the save to EEPROM command. If that's in there, then, it's going to throw a flag. Not sure what exactly they're doing, but I will be still testing it I'm keeping Prusa on their toes. I don't want them to know, okay, this week Tom is trying to sabotage our platform, but I'll try to ruin one of my Prusa printers, and I'll show it to Prusa and be like, hey, dude, by the way, the G-code from your platform ruined my printer if I achieve that. So I'm not sure how far I'm going to get, but there's a lot you can do with G-code.
That would make actually a good clickbaity title.
Prusa ruined my Prusa.
Prusa ruined my Prusa. Manipulating Prusa research.
Hacking PrusaPrinters.com. Yeah, everything is a hack now. Yeah.
I don't know if actually also the idea behind sharing G-codes is, because, for example, I'm currently taking a look at one of the models from Wexter, and he is only sharing the G-code file.
So only the G-code, not the STL?
Only the G-code, as far as I'm concerned. Yes. At least for this model right here. Link to the source model files. Okay, since the source model files are on my mini factory. But the idea behind that could be that people are not getting the physical STL model and cannot distribute that any further. People can download it from there. People can only download it for their Prusa printers. And some of the creation you did stays more under your control.
Well, if you're saying it's like a copyright protection mechanism, there are studies out there that can reconstruct the model from G-code.
Yes,
and of course you can 3D scan your print. It gives you a pretty
but
shitty
this
result,
is just not something totally common.
True.
Yeah. It was just an idea, as I said.
Yeah, it could be that too. Yeah, so of course, if it's trusted designers like the designers that Prusa contracted to design for PrusaPrinters.com, then I wouldn't have a problem printing those G-codes, because trustworthy people, it's sanctioned by Prusa. They've commissioned that, so all good. But if random people can upload G-codes, I'm sure there's going to be some, maybe not dangerous stuff, but definitely some trolly stuff in there.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing that people were kind of, concerned about was the location sharing that they have.
Prusa World. How did he actually almost put it like Steve Jobs always did in his keynotes. We call it Prusa World. In his blog post or something like that. I was really laughing.
I didn't notice that.
Anyways, yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So what Prusa are doing is they are, to the dismay of a lot of users, they have published a map of basically all the Prusa printers out there in the wild. So apparently they've worked with their does Prusa have distributors? Do they only sell directly?
I think they only sell directly.
Okay. But anyways, Prusa has published a map of all the Prusa owners out there. And you can... My dog's howling because the phone's ringing downstairs. Okay. You might actually hear that in the background. So, sorry. Prusa has published a map of all the Prusa owners out there, of all the Prusa printers, and you can go in on a pretty low level, and it's down to zip codes, for example. And some German zip codes are like 1 or 2 houses. Also, in other parts of the world, zip codes are apparently pretty specific. Now, apparently, originally it had like a bit of fuzziness to it, where it wasn't exactly on the address, but was like randomly placed. But still, on a few occasions, it got pretty close. I think it was like 50 or 100 meters. And if there's not a lot around where you ordered your printer, where you live, then that's obviously where you are. Now, that is a bit of a privacy issue, obviously, and the fact that you're not like agreeing to that, but you have to opt out. You have to actually register or claim that printer and then remove your marker from the map. Yeah, not super happy with it. So what they did is I think that they randomized the positioning a bit more. I think they increased it to like up to 1 kilometer or 500 meters of randomness to locations where there's less dense areas. But still, not sure what I should think about it. And I'm not sure if if that approach of what they're doing is actually going anywhere. Because you're aware of what they're trying to do, right?
Yes, of course. And I found it really interesting to see how many people just in my small town obviously have Prusa printers.
Yeah. So what you can do with that marker on the map, you can claim that, and then you can say, okay, I'm providing print on demand, I'm providing workshops, and I'm providing technical support or something along those lines. And of course, obviously, if you see a big empty map, it's not very likely that you're going to go in and be like the one dot on the map. But if it's a map that already has 150,000 other dots on it, then sure, you may be a bit more likely to sign up. I don't know. Not entirely happy with that.
There is already something similar for the rep community, or
there is, yeah.
Have I seen it on Facebook?
There is an official rep map, but I think that's been relevant the last time like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
So that I don't think that's particularly well used and well visited. But that's for every sort of printer, not just for Prusa printers.
I find the approach interesting, and also the idea interesting that you can see that there are also other geeks around you, which you could just get in contact with and just hang around with them. But also on the other side, there is the privacy issue, definitely.
And of course, Germans are very concerned about privacy. We're like the people that always shout, "Oh, but privacy, privacy, privacy." Yeah. But in the end, we all use Facebook and Google on our phones and all that. Yeah, but that's what Prusa's been up to. It's a nice approach, and given that, the file sharing thing, if you leave out the G-code part of it, it's nice seeing that there's more than just Umagine and Thingiverse. And My Mini Factory possibly, but...
I think it's not bad that they're doing that. Thingiverse, even though this is still the go-to platform for me, just like it gets weirder and weirder over time. It's slow. You don't really see that they're doing something on that page. They're not like introducing more features. My Mini Factory is getting better and better, but there many designers are sharing their things which you have to pay for, which is, we already talked about that last time, which is nice on one hand, but on the other side, you just can't download anything anymore. So
really, I've not used My Mini Factory for a while.
Okay. There's both, but I think still the most parts you still get on Thingiverse. This is, as I said, my go-to platform, where I also share all of my designs. I think it's a good approach what they're doing. They're still working on it heavily, as just I have read in between the lines. And let's see where they're getting.
Yeah.
And if they are locking out like Creality printer users.
Possibly. It's going to be interesting if I can register my clone Prusa machines.
You'll get a direct call from dissect.
Yeah. What else has happened? People have been printing 3 things. So like research stuff. MIT, I believe? No, COPL, not MIT. COPL is printing glass, actual glass. Someone has printed Aeroswift has printed a 0.5 meter UAV frame, so a drone quadcopter frame. And there's been a 3D printed heart. A heart-shaped object. But let's start with the glass. So let me pull up this. No, that's the heart article. And this is from 3dprintingindustry.com. And the oh god, that's a French name. I cannot pronounce that. But yeah, researchers from the COPL are printing chalcogenide glass.
Chalcogenide, yeah.
Which apparently is a glass that melts at 330 degrees, or it gets soft around 330 degrees. And if you know like the rough regions that our 3D printing materials work in, that's not that far off. And what they've used is a Creality printer. And, looking at it again, there's 2 heaters. So they've got a 2-stage heating element on there on what looks like an E3D V6. There's a bit more captain, so it might be a cloned V6. I don't know. But they're using a pretty standard hot end with a bit of a modification to get more heat into it. And yeah, they're doing FDM prints with shell glass. And I'm sure there's an application for that.
They have been writing something about, parts for optical applications, which might be really interesting because you have...
Oh, come on, optical applications with an FDM printer, But the interesting thing is, glass is very similar to what our polymers are, or our plastics like PLA, ABS. Those are more similar to glass than to, when people say, okay, just use some solder and put it in your hot end. That's a fundamentally different material, because what a glass and a polymer does is it doesn't have like a melting point, like where it, from say 330 degrees, it's solid, and 331 it's liquid. It doesn't do that, but it just gets soft. And the hotter you get it, the more liquid it gets. So glass essentially is very, very similar to what our polymers do. Again, the PLA, ABS also don't have like a strict melting point, but they just get softer and stickier the more you heat them up. So it just makes sense that they would be printing glass on an FDM setup.
Yeah, and as I've said before, when we were not streaming yet, recording the podcast yet.
We should be streaming these. There's pretty good software for that out there.
Yeah. I actually was in Boston like 2 years ago, and I also visited the MIT Museum, which was a bit underwhelming. There was some interesting things there, but yeah, I have expected more. Anyways, there were also glass 3D printed objects. So the MIT is the, home of 3D printing, more or less. So SLA 3D printing was, I think, invented there. And yeah, anyways, so they were also just showing off some parts that they 3D printed with glass, but with more conventional glass, where the melting temperatures are way higher than the 330 degrees that they are claiming in that article right here. And this is pretty challenging. So the parts they were showing were more or less just like vase parts, because if you're working at these high temperatures, you have huge problems with internal stresses that just you get during the cooling down time, and also things like the material sticking, if it's molten, to everything which is in your melt zone path. The melt zone itself has to be made from totally different materials that the ones you kind of know from conventional FDM manufacturing. And also just getting the layers of glass to stick to each other and then not shattering everything is something really challenging, obviously. And also, speaking of that, they have, I think, been working on a second version of their glass 3D printer, which I thought would be the topic we would be talking about today. Right. So if you guys are interested, also MIT is doing something in the direction of glass 3D printing.
Yeah, and obviously with any high temperature material, you do face pretty much the same challenges: warping, adhesion, like you mentioned, all those things. It's kind of like polycarbonate on steroids.
Yep.
And yeah, if you want to know more about this topic, this is actually an open access paper called 3D Printing of Arsenic Sulfide Chalcogenic Glasses. So the chalcogenic glass is just one part of it. It's the toxic stuff, I guess. Sulfide glasses. Yeah. But yeah, you can read that entire thing. It is open access, which we very much appreciate.
Cool.
Let's do these next two quickly because, why are we rambling so much? 3D printed UAV quadcopter drone frame. SwiftTech has printed a really large metal drone frame. And To me, I mean, it's a 3D print, but the big thing is it's a large metal 3D print, and maybe you know a bit more about that than I do, because as I understand, that's something that's not that trivial.
No, it's not that trivial, because also like there aren't many companies who are making these huge metal 3D printers. The normal build volume usually starts at like 120 millimeters and goes to like 250 to 300 millimeters, like cubed. So if they are talking about like more than half of a meter by half of a meter frame size, this is something that all of the machines can do.
Yep, and this one is 542 by 542 by 141 millimeters, so a bit more than half a meter.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but still, in my opinion, and also with the experience I have with metal 3D printing, it's just a horribly expensive process.
True.
So I don't really know. Well, I kind of know what such a frame will cost at today's market values, but I probably can't share that number right here at the moment. But it's horribly expensive, and there need to be some real proper applications where you are able to spend that amount of money on things like these.
Yeah,
and I'm also thinking about, is this 3D printed frame really better than a carbon fiber frame with just tubes? It looks cool.
Topologically optimized. I mean,
it's topologically optimized. It looks cool, but in the end, the question is always if it is really better than like conventional frames.
Yeah, and if it's worth the extra cash, and flight time of 15 minutes, like, okay, yeah, that's not too hard to achieve.
It's cool. It's really nice to see that metal 3D printing is more and more used, and also the companies who are making those machines and also the process themselves, they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper over the years. But still, it's a horribly expensive process, and it's currently just not really applicable in all industries. Aerospace is something where it is applicable, but you still need to have a really proper reason to spend that amount of money on parts like these. But if you want to have a really cool looking quadcopter frame, which is maybe also just weighs half of the weight than a conventional one, yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah, but maybe there are also other processes like, custom laminating a carbon fiber part that gets you pretty much there as well at a fraction of the cost.
As I said, maybe a combination of all might be the best thing in the end. I don't know.
It's a nice showpiece, and what they're saying is their printer does 2 meters long by 0.6 by 0.6. So 2 meters metal 3D printed part, I can see how that's slightly challenging.
Yeah. Next topic, 3D printed hard. I already said that people just talk to me at work. Oh, have you read that we are now finally able to 3D print hearts? So an Israeli, how do you pronounce that? Israeli?
Yeah.
Is it a company or is it a research institute? So they have been like 3D printing a heart. That's what they're claiming. In my opinion, it's more like a heart-shaped object.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to God, why does CNN have this crazy auto-playing video? God damn it. Sorry. So, yeah, we don't want to discredit the work that they've done.
No,
here.
definitely not.
You were just slightly breaking up, but...
So they have been using cells, like human cells, human stem cells, which they are using to recreate a, biological component in that 3D printer, which is more or less using like 2 syringes in a bath of some liquid. And I think the cells are also like suspended in aerogel or something like that. Yeah. And they're claiming that they have been printing with these stem cells, really the muscle structure of the heart, and also the, what do you call it? The veins, the arteries. It's not a fully working heart at the moment. They recreated the shape. They are claiming that the cells are able to contract or move, but not in a really organized manner.
Yeah. Did you get the auto-playing video too?
Get the auto-playing video, sorry.
God damn it, CNN, you got to stop that. But yeah, so the big thing here is so what this essentially is, it's a biocompatible chunk of muscle that has the shape of a heart. And the biocompatible thing is actually pretty important, because if you get a heart transplant and it's like, what is it, wrong blood group? No, something along those lines, where your immune system recognizes it as a I think that's I've never had a heart transplant, so excuse my ignorance on this topic, but as far as I'm aware, that is a pretty big issue. So heart transplant patients typically get to take medication for the rest of their life or something.
Immune suppressants.
Immune suppressants, basically, to keep their body from recognizing that heart and rejecting it and kind of fighting it. And this heart, because it's grown from stem cells that were extracted from the patient themselves, something along those lines, it is essentially biologically the same as tissue from the patient. So that's great. That's fantastic. And I think it's an achievement on itself to have that thing shaped in the way of a heart, and to get some functionality out of it. But of course, it's not a one-to-one replacement of a heart. It doesn't have any nerves in it. It doesn't have, it's the size of a rabbit's heart is what they're saying. So they need to make it bigger. They need to make it, actually functional. And it's still like, it's that 80-20 problem, right? They've got like 80% of the visible progress. Oh yeah, we have something that looks like a heart. But that's like 20% of the work. Again, I'm no neuroscientist. I don't know this stuff. I'm a mechatronics engineer and you're a mechanical engineer, so who knows? Maybe this is like the best thing ever. But I feel like there's a lot more work that needs to go into this until it's actually a full replacement for donated organs. And by the way, if you're not registered as an organ donor, please do so. Like if you're dead, like you're not going to need those organs anymore. Yes. It's a simple credit card size thing, at least here in Germany, that you can just get. You have yours on hand?
No, it's
no,
downstairs.
It looked like you were reaching for something there. Please register as an organ donor. It's a really good cause, and like you got nothing to lose. You're just helping people. So until we get 3D printed hearts totally figured out, I think that's the best thing to do.
Yeah. I maybe put it in the wrong way in the beginning. I also really the efforts they made are great. The thing which bothered me a little bit is how the media picked that up. So people were understanding it in a way that we now have 3D printed hearts. And
true, but that's
organ donations will be something which we don't need in the future.
Yeah, nah. But it's always that I listen to a ton of podcasts that have actual researchers and actual scientists commenting on things, and one of the issues apparently is that if you have if you're a researcher, you don't put out those press releases. Your press department puts those out, and you communicate that to your press department, and they kind of put it into something that news outlets will pick up, and then the news outlets put their own spin on things. So what the researchers did is only like a tiny part, and it's stille Post, basically the rest of the way. So everyone kind of interprets the findings and the results in a slightly different way, and in the end, we have headlines like, "Oh, we now have a 3D printed heart."
But on the other hand, it's also a good thing if media picks things like these up, because it helps with funding of these projects. Because it's way easier to get further funding for projects like that if you have shown progress and also showed that progress openly. Because on the one hand, you might get investors, and on the other hand, you might get research money from, like here in Germany, it's from the Bund. And but there's always this fine line in between, like just popular news, which just like over exaggerate things, and the point that you need to show your work in a clickbaity way.
Yeah, which is a perfect transition to our topic of the week. We have set out to discuss: are we paid YouTubers? Do we do clickbait for the sake of aggregating views and selling printers? Are we paid by manufacturers?
Yes.
Are we?
So I tweeted 1.5 weeks ago, no, I don't feel like I am a paid YouTuber. But then just thinking about it for a couple of minutes, I thought, damn, of course I am a paid YouTuber. So yes, I am a paid YouTuber. You are a paid YouTuber. You make your living from YouTube.
Yeah.
I make part of my living from YouTube now. Of course we are paid YouTubers.
Yeah. Though the question is, I mean, everyone needs to like buy food at the end of the month. But the question and the differentiation is, on what terms are you being paid? So, I mean, full disclosure, and this should be fairly obvious. I have a ton of affiliate programs that I've signed up to. I signed up with Amazon, obviously, eBay, Matterhackers, Prusa.
AliExpress.
Who else? AliExpress. Yeah, Banggood have an affiliate program. GearBest. Oh yeah, GearBest. So basically, anywhere, any respectable shop has some sort of an affiliate program. Even Adobe have an affiliate program. Like if you want to point people towards buying the creative suit that, is apparently now going up in price, but that's a different thing. You can do that. So anything that people can buy online, if you're an influencer, which is such a fantastic word, if you're an influencer and you point people towards a product, typically you're going to be earning with that because, you would be dumb not signing up for the affiliate programs. The question though is, and my microphone's clipping, sorry about that. The question though is, does that influence your content? So, well, no. Let's take another step back. So that's affiliate programs. But what people typically think of when they hear, okay, you're a paid influencer, you're a paid YouTuber, is company pays you to make a review, or company pays you to make a positive review. And that is actually something that is very much happening. Stefan, have you gotten any of those emails yet?
Of course.
Yeah. So.
And you were tempted to say, okay, because that can make you lots of money.
I've never felt the temptation. It's just, no, like. Ugh.
Well, yes, of course, but we're all evil on the inside. And I would also like to drive a Lamborghini or something like that. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Okay, so the way those sponsorships or whatever they would be called, sponsorships again are a different topic, and we're going to talk about that as well. So straight up payment for a review, I have never accepted that and will never accept that because I think it's the wrong thing to do.
But you have also already accepted like free printers. Is that also already a payment?
That is correct.
That was one of, I think, the big questions that came up at that point.
Yeah. So is a machine a payment? If you're what I believe, if you're just starting out and if you're new to this and you have like one printer or two printers and somebody comes along and says, hey, I'm going to send you a free printer. Of course, that's an incentive to make a review on it. First of all, that I think that's a given. If someone sends you stuff, you at least kind of have to mention it. I feel like it because typically you're at least saying, okay, I'm gonna show this in an unboxing or something. Mm-hmm. But you may also feel like thankful for that free printer. You may want to show your gratitude and be like, okay, yeah, actually, I did enjoy using that. For me, another printer is just more space that it takes up. It's just like, okay, one more thing that either I have to make sure that I give out to someone, or I tear it down once I'm done with the review, or I keep and then it takes up space. I don't care about printers. I have all the printers I could ever want. Plus, the printers that people typically send me are not something that I'm like missing in my lineup. So for me, because I have so many machines already, I don't care about another printer. So that's not really an incentive, I guess. For some people, it can be. So, but what I also, for me, what I also kind of see in that is I never sell printers. I never sell review samples that have been sent to me for free. I just think that's kind of immoral to do that because the manufacturer gave it to you for free and you're now making money off of it. I don't know. Something in me is not happy with the idea of selling free samples. But on the other hand, of course, we are making money by recommending printers, by showing printers in a positive light, because people will buy them through affiliate links. And I don't know, isn't that the same thing?
It's kind of the same thing. I don't know. I think you kind of have to earn the trust of the community over time, in a way that they know that if you're doing a review, you are kind of unbiased. I think there can't really be an unbiased review. There's always, as I said, just to be kind to show something off is already being a little bit biased. But in the end, try to, if you are making a review which is as objective as possible, it is okay. And in that way, I don't feel as a paid YouTuber in the like bad, how do you say, in the like just
you're not a
that
shill.
This is a bad thing. I'm not
a shill.
I'm not a shill.
Shill from Shilling.
Shill. Okay.
Yeah. The guy that Linus Sebastian is being accused of being. Yeah, you're not shilling for a company.
But it is a hard thing, and as I said, it is tempting because if you're talking better about the products you also have affiliate links for, you're gonna get more sales.
Yeah,
and there are probably plenty of other YouTubers around there who use that for their own benefit.
Yeah,
and I just try to be as openly as possible. And I hope that I have never like recommended anything that's that wasn't the way as it should be, but it's a fine line.
Yeah. Now, of course, with that approach of you're earning more if you make a positive review of something, if you produce a positive review. For me, that has kind of manifested in, if I'm not happy with a product, I don't make a review of it because it's literally not worth my time and effort to, fully script out something, fully investigate it. If it's just a bad printer like the ANET E10, which is like a Ender 3 clone, which is the Prusa clone, but the Ender E10 is just a bad printer. And ANET E10. Did I say Ender E10? The ANET E10 is just not a good printer, and I've used it once. I've unboxed it. I was like, what is this crap? So I never made a video of it. That's kind of how I deal with it, though. I mean, I guess I should be making reviews of the bad products as well, even if it doesn't pay, even if it's. I don't know. This is hard. This is hard stuff.
This is the hard thing, and it's the same with me. But in the end, you have to pay your bills at the end of the month. So you either don't review them and make videos about things that will get more views and will make you more money in the end, or you're making bad 3D printer reviews and don't talk about them that bad and earn tons of affiliate money.
Yeah.
So I also rather think that you should skip these printers and talk about different things. But on the other hand, people also should be informed if things are bad. But at the end, you have to be paid. This is the problem.
Yeah,
we all have to be paid.
It's a job, and affiliates do make up a considered amount of my income, and I'm sure they make up a considered amount of pretty much any other influencer, visible persons, key opinion leaders income as well. And thankfully through projects like the Mark II clone and other stuff where I can just go, this, I'm just using these parts. I think that's a good middle ground to kind of create a continuous income stream of affiliate sales. And that's not like judging those products. It's just, okay, I'm using them, and here you go. Here you can buy them on AliExpress. That for me, I think that's really made a difference to where I don't have to chase every single print and maximize profit from every single machine. And also Patreon. Patreon really is that great equalizer to like give you that base level of, okay, I'm not going to be starving at the end of the month. And people value the content. We've talked about this before. Value the content even if you don't push to sell something.
On the other hand, so we also have that in our show notes, sponsorships. So where you kind of advertise for a couple of seconds a product which has nothing to do with the video content itself.
Which I think is an amazing way to advertise. If it's unrelated to your content, be my guest. But what if it is related to your content?
So the thing with these sponsorships like Squarespace, like Skillshare, like Wix, and whatever they are in the first place unrelated to the video and the content you're making. And they're called sponsorships because you don't get paid by the amount of people who subscribe to that service. You get paid.
Some of them do work that way, but usually it's like a fixed, based on how many people will see that integration or that ad that you put in the video. It's just a fixed amount you get typically.
And this is the good thing because you don't have to talk in kind of a...
Oh, my camera just shut off. Cool.
Your camera just shut off.
Why did my camera just shut off? Give me 1 second.
And after this short power outage break, we are back. I always told you that I don't trust these batteries to last for 2 hours. I'm always using my DC adapter.
Okay. I should as well. I've got a few of those. Right. Yeah, but you were saying unrelated sponsorships.
Unrelated sponsorships are, in my opinion, a good thing because it really helps us pay our bills. It helps us make content that doesn't make us tons of money. And you're not tempted to talk for the whole video in a totally positive manner about that thing because you're just placing that ad and you don't get paid more if more people are signed up, at least for the programs I have been working with so far. And this is something nice. This is also just, as I said, helps us helps us paying bills and helps at least, well, probably both of us make videos that won't be watched by like millions or won't sell products like in the 10,000s.
You were just watching a black frame. Sorry about that.
I hope the other battery's not gonna run out of juice.
Looks like it's full. So
what do you think about that topic?
Yeah, so sponsorships, I mean, I'm totally fine with them. Usually my biggest point of contention, if that's how you say that, is how long and how specific the sponsorship integrations are. Because the way it usually works is you get a very, very clear outline of, okay, it needs to be 30 seconds long or 45 seconds long, and you need to mention this, this, and this. And to fill that space, here's some talking points. Sorry, I'm still a bit out of breath. Here's some talking points, like Squarespace, how they have award-winning design templates and they have 24/7 customer support. I mean, everyone knows that's like every single Squarespace ad has those things in it. And you get that like very clearly laid out. And usually I'm like, okay, well, 45 seconds, that's pretty long. If it's like a 10-minute video, that's, not quite 10%, but it's a significant chunk of the video. That's usually my point of friction with those ads. But in general, from an independent of the sponsor standpoint, you're not like tying yourself to them. There's not much to lose. Like, it doesn't affect your main content in a way. Of course, which is another point in this, which is a bit deeper, is if your ad doesn't perform well, if not a lot of people sign up, of course you don't lose or gain any money directly from that, but the sponsor may not come back if you just have an ad that nobody signs up for the service. So I mean, which is logical because no sponsor wants to waste a bunch of money on something that doesn't give them anything. Or at least not anything measurable. Of course, it may do stuff for brand awareness and all that, but it doesn't directly result in sales. And that is not just an issue with sponsorships, but also with reviews. So, how do you keep a manufacturer coming back and providing review samples again if you're getting stuff for free, if you're not buying it outright? And we've actually had that. I've put the link here in our notes here. iFixit has actually gotten some. Let me open this up. German article on golem.de. So iFixit has had a teardown of the Galaxy Fold, of Samsung's new folding smartphone. And they had taken it offline after a day or so, after apparently Samsung complained about it. So, of course, iFixit doesn't have any like legal, or Samsung doesn't have any legal stand to demand the takedown of that teardown. But iFixit still complied because they didn't want to get Samsung angry and possibly, have Samsung not provide units anymore. It's kind of the same thing that Apple does. Apple provides free review samples to, reviewers, but if you don't provide a positive review after that, then you're not getting the sample as early as everyone else. You may need to order it through, your normal channels, or you may just be 2 weeks late. And that is, of course, a significant disadvantage in something that is as fast-paced as the tech world. Of course, in 3D printing, it's not that extreme yet, but there is, I am aware that if you want to keep working with a manufacturer, you kind of need to give them something in return. Thankfully, there are enough manufacturers out there that I don't really care who I work with and whose products I get to test. But yeah, that is something that you just need to be aware of as well.
Yeah, indeed. All right.
So yeah, I think we didn't quite finish the part of
are we paid YouTubers?
Are we paid YouTubers and the payment for review, because there are a few different things and ways that manufacturers can pay for reviews or exert pressure. So the first one we said was straight up payment for a review, which is morally not that great. There is the affiliate programs, which we've talked about, and there is the approach of refund after review, which some Amazon sellers apparently do. So they'll tell you, okay, you can buy this product, you make a review for us, and then we refund you the full price you paid. And that, I think, is putting just a lot of pressure on the reviewer, because what if the company isn't happy with the review? Like you're going to have bought something that you don't really need, and you're going to be out, if it's a 3D printer, $300, $400, $800. That is something that is, it's the same thing as a paid review, right?
It's the same as a paid review. But have you actually been like asked for something like that before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, by various Chinese sellers on Amazon.
Okay. I know it from Amazon that, or I have, there were some filament manufacturers, and because it's a good thing for them if they have verified purchase Amazon reviews on the Amazon pages.
If you're just leaving a review on Amazon.
Yeah. And you kind of trust them, or you kind of...
Nobody should trust Amazon reviews. Just
nobody should trust Amazon reviews, but many actually don't know that, even though it says, okay, verified purchase, that these samples could actually be these review samples where the people who wrote that review could have been paid in a way that they got this product for free.
But let's be totally straight about this. That is against Amazon's terms of service. Amazon has that feature built in where it's this reviewer got the product for free, where it's a little tag at the review that Amazon puts in there. Amazon, I think, has the Vine program. Themselves. And I think resellers who work through Amazon or sell through Amazon also can take advantage of that. But of course, if you get something and then get it refunded outside of Amazon, then that tag is not there and it looks like you straight up bought it. But the thing is also, it's outside of Amazon too. Like on Amazon, typically it's Amazon sellers, but there will be like, okay, you make a YouTube video and once that's up, then you get a refund. And yeah, the same thing as being straight up paid for it, but it just has more pressure on you to actually produce something that the reseller is happy with. Yeah. So are we paid YouTubers?
Yes, of course we are, but sure. I think we give our best to be as like trustful as possible. And you have already said it, and I also already said it. I try to make other content where I don't get near that pit where you can fall into. But still, from time to time, this is also content that is showing up on my channel. I like to use these things for live streams because I enjoy doing live streams, and getting new printers or accessories for printers gives me a topic to talk about in a live stream.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's
even though this is not a full review, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've unboxed many printers and not reviewed them too, in the same way. But yeah, I think in the end it really depends on, you know, where your moral compass is pointing, like what you are willing to go along with, and how you're clear with yourself what you want to do and what you definitely don't want to do. I think we both agree pretty much on where we're drawing the line. And in fact, I've outlined my review guidelines and sponsorship guidelines on my website. They're linked in the bottom section of every single site, every single page. So that's public information for everyone. That's a very clear, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm definitely not going to do out there. And it's really a trust thing, like you said.
There's a really good indicator, because like the trustworthiness of a YouTuber can be checked if you compare the number of like YouTube subscribers and video views against the number of Patreons. Because in a way, because I think, or so what I have just seen in the past, if there are big channels who are doing reviews and things like these and don't have lots of Patreon followers, this is a first indication for me that they are doing more paid content. And if it's the other way around, people are appreciating that they are openly telling them their opinion and are not aiming towards affiliate sales and just, well, talking good about products which aren't. And this is then appreciated with a, well, Patreon support.
That's the way I hope it works. Yeah. Of course, there are other things that go into that, like how aggressively is a Patreon campaign being pushed and marketed. How long has the campaign been around? At what point was it started? And there's a lot more that goes into that. But yeah, you're right. It's actually
look at Ave or Project Farm. Yeah. They're both claiming that they are like buying everything on their own. They don't have any affiliate links in the description, but they just have tons of Patreon supporters. And taking a look at Ave, who, I don't know, has 20,000 Patreons.
Oh, wow.
He is earning quite some money with that. Well, earning quite some money, but he's also giving it back in his open review style and things like these. And also Project Farm, which I really like to watch from time to time.
Yeah, came out of nowhere, right?
He came out from nowhere, but he did it in a kind of interesting way, and it kind of reminds me of the things I'm also doing.
Yeah.
And he just says, okay, he can't do these open reviews if he would have affiliate links down in his description, or if he would get things for free. So he buys everything on his own. It gets appreciated by the Patreons, and he can do that with the support he's getting there. Because YouTube, even though it's paying a little, it's in the end probably not paying his bills.
Yeah, well, AdSense revenue wildly varies between channels and depending on your audience and all that. But yeah, so I guess thank you Patreons. Is that what the bottom line is?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Autoplay.
You can't even see that video again. Yeah. Cool. Should we? Was there one more thing that I wanted to talk about here? Nah.
Well, you can add something like, "Hey, this is future Tom."
Oh yeah.
If you think about something, we are already quite a while into the podcast, so I think let's maybe just talk about one question in the end. And this was posed by Custom RC Tuning a couple of days ago under the podcast.
Hey guys, this is Austin now. Hey guys, question for your next episode. What do you hate the most about FDM printing in general? Sorry.
And it was quite a hard topic for us to think about. And for me, it also still is, because I really like FDM printing. But one of the things, since I'm really impatient, is I hate about FDM 3D printing that for big parts, it takes ages until I get my design out.
Yeah, I hate that my printers are too small. I wish I had a hang printer. I wish I had space for a hang printer. I think that's one thing that, yeah, we've talked about this on the very first episode.
We've been discussing that, I think, on our first episode. If you want to dig into that deeper, faster or bigger 3D printers. But yeah, this is something which is bothering myself. What is bothering you?
Yeah, again, like printers aren't big enough. I wish that they were really big. I guess the biggest limitation, but not necessarily hate, it's just a limitation of the process, is like really fine and accurate details. Like you can't really do like super precise passing in. God.
Fits, how do you say?
Where you're like fitting a pin to a hole, where you're fitting a pin that's already on your part or on a normal injection molded part, and you're trying to fit a 3D printed part on it. You don't get the tolerances necessary for that, and it's always trial and error. I think that is a pretty big limitation, but
people will be saying, "Why don't you try SLA printing?"
Yeah, but that
comes
has
with
its own
other problems.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think there's a hate on that. It's just, yeah.
So we're both happy with FDM 3D printing. That's why we are doing this. And I think this concludes today's episode.
All right, fantastic. It was great talking to you, Stefan. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, get subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. Get subscribed on YouTube if you're watching here. Support us on Patreon.
Leave a like.
Leave a comment below on what you would like to see next. Leave your questions. Leave a rating on iTunes. Can we do that? Yeah.
And we have a couple of ratings there.
Oh, I hope it's all 5-star ratings.
Last time I checked, yes.
Oh yeah, you guys are awesome. Leave some more if you feel like it. And yeah, good talking to you.
Good talking to you, and see you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.